High on a granite cliff in the Black Hills of South Dakota, 4 faces the height of a 5-story building gaze out over a sea of pine. Carved from solid rock over 14 years, they are among the largest works of sculpture on Earth, a mountain reshaped by human hands into something meant to last for ages. It is a place of astonishing ambition and deep, unsettled history, where stone, memory, and a sacred landscape all meet. Welcome to Mount Rushmore. We are in the Black Hills of western South Dakota, an isolated range of ancient granite and dark pine rising out of the northern Great Plains. Cool, forested, and ringed by open grassland, these hills stand apart from everything around them, an island of mountains in a sea of prairie. It is here, on a peak once known by another name, that the great carving was made. Look up at the cliff and 4 immense faces look back, each one about 60 feet from chin to brow. They are the likenesses of 4 presidents of the United States, chosen to tell the story of a nation. From left to right rise George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt set a little deeper in the rock, and Abraham Lincoln. Together they gaze out across the hills, weathered and pale in the sun, so large that a person at the base of the cliff is smaller than one of their eyes. The mountain itself is part of the Black Hills, a place unlike the plains that surround it. Streams cut through granite spires, ponderosa pine cloaks the slopes in green so dark it looks black from a distance, and the air is cooler and wetter than the prairie below. For thousands of years, this has been a place people were drawn to, a refuge of water, game, and shelter set high above the open land. The carving would be made into the heart of this rare and storied country. The idea began in part as a way to draw visitors to South Dakota. In the 1920s, a state historian dreamed of carving giant figures into the hills to lure travelers from across the country. What started as a bid for tourism grew into something far grander, a plan to sculpt a national monument on a colossal scale. A granite peak that caught the sun for much of the day was chosen for the work, and a sculptor with vast ambition was brought in to make it real. That sculptor was Gutzon Borglum, an artist who thought in mountains. From 1927 to 1941, he directed the enormous undertaking, but the work was truly done by hundreds of workers, many of them local miners who needed the wages through hard years. Day after day, they were lowered down the face of the cliff, suspended in harnesses against the bare rock, shaping stone in wind and heat and cold. It was dangerous, back-breaking labor, and remarkably, not a single life was lost in all the years of carving. Each face was chosen to stand for a chapter in the nation's story. Washington, the first president, represents the birth of the country. Jefferson, who greatly expanded its lands, stands for its growth. Lincoln, who led it through its most divided hour, represents its preservation. And Roosevelt, who championed its wild places and its rise in the world, stands for its development. 4 figures, 4 ideas, gazing together from the stone. The mountain was shaped with astonishing force. Most of the rock, around 90% of it, was removed with dynamite, blasted away in carefully measured charges that crept ever closer to the final surface. Then came the drills, hundreds of holes bored close together to honeycomb the stone so it could be broken away by hand and smoothed. Nearly 500,000 tons of granite were carved from the mountain, the noise of drills and blasts echoing across the hills for years. Yet the monument we see was never truly completed. Borglum had envisioned the presidents carved down to their waists and planned a great hall within the mountain to hold the nation's records. But funding ran short. The sculptor died in early 1941, and with a world war looming, the work was halted that autumn. The grand lower bodies were never made. What stands today are the four faces alone, finished enough to endure, though far less than was once dreamed. Even unfinished, the scale of the work is hard to grasp. The faces are so large that each nose stretches around 20 feet long, and the eyes are wider than a person is tall. To carve such likenesses into a rough cliff, workers used a small studio model and multiplied every measurement many times over, transferring points to the mountain with plumb lines and booms. It remains one of the boldest feats of sculpture and engineering ever attempted, a portrait scaled up to the size of a mountain. But the story of this mountain begins long before any carving. To the Dakota people, these are Paha Sapa, the Black Hills, a place held sacred at the very heart of their world. This peak was known to them as the Six Grandfathers, a site of prayer and deep meaning. For generations, the hills were a spiritual center, a place of ceremony and belonging, valued not for what could be taken from them, but for what they were. By treaty in 1868, the United States recognized the Black Hills as belonging to the Dakota, set aside for them for all time. But in the 1870s, gold was found in these hills, and prospectors poured in against the terms of that treaty. Rather than hold the line, the government moved to take the hills, and within a few years, the sacred country of Paha Sapa had been seized from the people who had been promised it forever. The wound of that taking has never healed. The question of the Black Hills has never been settled. In 1980, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the hills had been taken unlawfully and awarded payment for the land. But the Dakota have refused to accept the money, which sits untouched and growing in a federal account. They have never wanted payment. What they continue to seek is the return of the hills themselves, and so the sacred land and the great carving upon it remain bound together in an unresolved history. To stand at the foot of the cliff today is to feel the full weight of the place. The four faces rise pale and immense against the sky, framed by dark pine and bright granite, drawing millions of visitors from around the world each year. Some come for the sheer spectacle of it, a mountain turned into a portrait. Others come knowing the deeper story of the ground it stands on. The monument holds both at once, awe and reckoning in a single view. And that is what makes this place so unforgettable. It is at once a marvel of human daring, a symbol carved to speak of a nation, and a sacred mountain taken from a people who still call for its return. No single story can hold it. The pine-covered hills, the pale stone faces, and the memory of Paha Sapa all live here together, layered upon one another, asking everyone who visits to look and to think and to remember. Four faces in stone, a range of sacred hills, and a story still unfolding. Thank you for watching. Follow for more interesting people, places, and things we cover on the channel.